Appreciate it. So what I'm going to do today, again, 5-7 minutes, is give you a quick overview of Civic Science and then jump into Sage, which is our consumer insights AI assistant. And incidentally, if you want to sign for a free beta of this, go to ai.civicscience.com. I'm happy to get you set up. No money has to change hands. So what is Civic Science? We've been around for a bit. We're a real-time consumer insights platform, as well as an activation platform. And how we work is we partner with major media sites. We put polling units on their sites, and we interact with about 10 million consumers a day, collect about 4 million polling responses across tens of thousands of questions. So pretty much anything you can imagine that a brand marketer or a strategist or someone would want to know about consumer, we're asking, and we're asking lots of people that all the time. And then we have a lot of customers that are using this. So currently, our non-AI world is we have a SaaS platform that plays all this data back. But obviously, going into the Gen AI world, we've got kind of gone hard over the past year. So we'll show you Sage. So Sage is our consumer AI assistant, and our view in this is that the idea of a marketing assistant, an analytics assistant will kind of evaporate in the years, and then be replaced with AI. So what we're looking to do is have a plain language interface with our data to be able to not just do high-level data exploration, but also provide an on-ramp into our things to be able to look at trend analysis and pretty much reach out to a wider set of folks inside the marketing groups, insights groups, strategy, product, merch, the whole world that may not be wanting to get into a deep tool or have statistical background, but want to know the answers to questions. So I'm going to show you Sage in 30 seconds, but one thing just to note here from a technical perspective is that we've built what we call an AI sandwich. And what that means is that we have on the top level of the sandwich, the bread is GPT that's sitting there, and users are using Slack or a web chat or ultimately Microsoft Teams to ask GPT questions. And what GPT is doing is looking at the query from the user and saying, what of all the data that Civic Science has are the most relevant questions, and then zeroing in on that. And then the meat in the sandwich is our petabyte scale database, where GPT is actually creating API queries into our database to do the stats and to do the testing and sampling and graphing and all that sort of heavy lifting. So the AI itself isn't sophisticated enough to do that. Our systems are doing it. And then on the backside, the bread on the bottom, GPT is now taking all that data that comes back from that query and then summarizing it in a plain English way, as well as doing some other things around it. We'll show you in a moment. So anyhow, so that's what Sage is doing. Let me actually show you the thing. So let me and the real thing, not just this. So I went through each one of these queries takes about 60 to 90 seconds to run. So I ran some queries earlier today. I'm happy to run some live queries if people want to see what happens really. But basically, this is Slack integration. Like I mentioned, Teams and web chat are also available shortly. This is in beta. It's launching later this month. So I asked it a question around what are trends regarding premium cosmetics. So GPT is taking that and saying, hey, what are all the dimensions of that question you may be interested in? It's playing it back to you here. And then about a minute later, it comes back with a summary. And it goes to our database and pulls a bunch of different questions. So the summary kind of gives you, age groups, favorable response, different sorts of factoids. Then for each one of these things, we then give you a series of nuggets. So bullet points regarding, kind of, I would say, there are very specific insights around your question. So for instance, the idea of like, what's the most popular luxury cosmetic? Is it would be skincare, or what age groups, or things of this nature. So let me break this down a little bit. So we just don't show you insights. We also then say, we give you footnotes. So for every one of these things, and we actually are tying back to our Insight Store SaaS application. So for people who are customers of that, you can go and click on one of these and then go over here, and now you see all the data in gory and great detail. But even if you don't want to do that and you're not a customer of ours, in that respect, every one of these things has the ability to download the data. And so what you get from a download is a pretty extensive set of data for each one of these questions. So even though the thing on Slack says, here's 81% of respondents said they were not likely to do thus and such, you go to the data, we show you all the age groups, all the rows and columns, all the breakdowns. And every one of these has an insane amount of detail that is literally generated in 1 minute. Other things you can do with Sage is, it goes through a whole bunch of stuff. You say, oh, that's kind of great. Tell me more about what's happening with this data in California. So now it goes ahead and breaks it down based on a geome for California. Same data this way. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe I want to go ahead and take one of these references and go have a deeper breakdown. So to go through, it'll take one question from one of these bullets here, break it down even in greater depth, give you a time series graph here, give you the ability to kind of look at time ranges and respondents, that sort of thing. And you can even go through and pull out a little bit and do time graphing over a longer period of time. So every one of these things lets you either through interacting with the bot by typing plain English queries, or by using some of these buttons to go and click into the data here. So let me stop. I think that's probably a few minutes, and see if folks have any questions, and happy to go deeper in any of this stuff.
Great. Thanks for getting this going, Joe. So, I mean, it's fascinating to see what you're doing with data, and it's been fun also piloting this as well. So appreciate that. I'm also see, like the hand raise button might help too, just so any folks come to the top. But if someone wants to chime in with a question, feel free to just unmute too. I mean, oh, Mark, were you unmuted?
Yeah, I've got one. This looks amazing. I like the sandwich idea. The petabyte scale data store. If I work at the IAB, we do a lot of our own research as well. If we wanted to use your tools to analyze that, how would that work? Is that where we become a full SaaS client, or?
Yeah. I mean, so we have, it showed our logo screen. Those folks on the logo screen typically are paying six figures to access the full thing. This Sage will be $2.99 a month. I mean, to us, it's a very mass sort of play. And like you say, you get a fair amount of data here. You don't get the full enchilada. So if you want the full enchilada, you go bigger into it. But we feel like for a lot of marketers, especially in smaller organizations, or maybe people outside the insights group who don't really want to have an insane amount of spend or data, this is a great discovery tool to kind of get your feet wet into it. So in your case, you may say, oh, I actually want to go super deep into things, in which case then there would be a larger contract there. But you could very easily say, I'll pay my $2.99 a month, and I'll use this to kind of understand the wider world. All the data here is the same data in our high-end SaaS tool. So you're not getting diluted data. You're just getting the ability to cut it in maybe coarser ways.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
And I'm just curious, like with the conversational nature, given that you have that access point, and then you also have the massive searchable database, and that whole platform that you have access to, are there certain kinds of things that with that conversational nature people are more likely to be asking about? Does that change what people are looking for at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, so what happens, and any of you who've kind of used consumer insights sort of tools know that you often have to go into the tool with a very specific question you want to get answered. And I think the challenge we find at Civic Science is we have this insane database built up over many years, but it's to unlock the true value, you got to know what you're looking for. And so what we see the value for a tool like this is you don't know what you're looking for. You're kind of doing top of funnel discovery. You're trying to understand trends. You're trying to kind of get a feeling for the arena. And so we're giving you back this is giving you a fairly general set of information around every topic. And then you can start drilling into things. And maybe the next layer down is to go to a more sophisticated tool, or you go to a different research provider and find things against it. So for us, to me, it's like the democracy of data is spreading beyond the kind of classical heads down insight people into other folks who may need data but don't have access to tools like this. And it's also accelerating discovery and top of funnel analysis.
Nice. And then I do want to ask one question that's come up now twice in the chat, and then
chat enabled here.
But there were a couple of questions about the sources for the data, where those come from.
No, so this is where we differ from a lot of AI-based tools. This is solely sourced from our databases. So, and this is where, again, if you can go and ask GPT, Chat GPT, these same questions, it will give you answers. It will give you much different answers because it's sourced on the rest of the internet. Everything you see here, again, is it takes the question, looks at our 500,000 questions, determines which of our questions are most relevant, runs an analysis against those questions, comes back with data from our database that you can't get anywhere else, and gives you the answers back against it. Now, obviously, GPT understands English language and contextual things, so to break the question down into components and understand, if I say, tell me about luxury car buying things, it knows that BMW and Mercedes and Rolls-Royce are luxury car brands, but the data coming back is ours. And also the other angle here is we footnote everything. So hallucination, confabulation, huge issues in AI, because you can tick and tie everything back to the original sources, either through our SaaS platform, or if you don't have access to that, through the Excel download, you have greater confidence in what you're seeing isn't some sort of kind of AI dream. It's actually real hardcore data.
Excellent. Well, thanks for this. Feel free to stick around. We can see just anything else that comes up, and then and also if there are follow-up questions for chat, I think just making sure we got the URL. Okay, Noah, thanks for sharing that. But any other questions, feel free to keep the conversation going in chat, and we will keep the presenting moving. And then Julia, want to share what you're up to with Storia?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name's Julia. I'm going to present in a second. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. So our company is called Storia, and the one-liner is contextual intelligence for storytelling. Before I go into the demo, I just wanted to quickly introduce myself and my co-founder. We are both technology people. We spent the last decade doing research in artificial intelligence at great research labs like Google Research and Amazon Alexa. And we quit our jobs about a year ago and started this company, Storia. Oops, sorry. So our mission is to accelerate storytelling with the power of AI. And we started from film, but we are looking into expanding into the marketing industry. The demo that you see today is geared towards independent filmmakers, but I'm very eager to hear ideas or suggestions on how the same product or technology could be adapted to also serve marketers. So the product that we're going to demo helps filmmakers go from a film script to a storyboard. So in other words, it helps them communicate their vision, and that can help either pitch their film so that they get financing, or they can help communicate certain aspects to the rest of the crew, like the cinematographer or the actors and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and do a live demo. What could go wrong, am I right? So when the filmmakers land on our page, they're invited to create their storyboard. Now, what they can do is either enter the text manually, or more commonly, what they do is they import a PDF that was exported from Final Draft, which is the most common software for writing screenplays, and they import it into our tool. So over here, I imported a screenplay written by Joe Penna, who's a filmmaker, one of our collaborators. He wrote Stowaway, which is a film about 3 astronauts going into space, and it's available on Netflix. So there's going to be a little bit of spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, maybe mute me. So what's happening now under the hood is that we ingest the script and we parse all of the scenes, and we do a lot of natural language processing to understand aspects like who the characters are, what their physical traits are, which physical traits are permanent, like maybe an actress is permanently blonde, but maybe a scar is only showing up in a particular scene. Similarly, what are the locations, what are the plot twists, and so on. So over here, you see a breakdown of the script. The filmmakers can select the scenes that they want to illustrate, and they can filter by the location of the scene, the time of the scene. They can even search in text, or they can filter by the characters. So I've already selected a few scenes that are the most interesting in the film, and I'm gonna go ahead and continue. Now, over here, what's happening is we've automatically extracted all of the characters in the film. In this case, there's only 4 characters because the entire film is about 3 astronauts that go into space and discover a 4th one, the stowaway, and his name is Michael. And now the filmmaker has the ability to enter a few aspects of their characters that are very relevant when it comes to their physical appearance. So I know who the actors were cast, and I can just describe who ended up being cast. So like Zoe is, what's her name? Anna Kendrick. and she's in her early 30s and she's Caucasian, and I can add other descriptions like maybe she's nerdy, and so on. The filmmakers can basically describe all of their characters in a way that might not be explicitly captured in the screenplay. And the same applies to the locations. We've automatically extracted all of the locations that show up in the script, and now the filmmakers can add extra details that they want reflected in the storyboard. I'm just going to skip this step for now so that I don't take your time typing. Now, the next step is to decide or to indicate some inspiration. Because this is a film about space, I can say I might be interested in Interstellar, for instance. So, but there's obviously an infinite universe of possibilities. Now, when it comes to choosing a particular model that will take the scenes and translate them into visuals, we integrate with the main providers like DALL-E and Stable Diffusion, but we also have collaborations with filmmakers where we take their own IP. Maybe they have a film already, maybe they have character work done by an artist, and we fine-tune models on their private IP, and then we let them create storyboards with that IP. So I'm just going to go with Stable Diffusion, the generic choice, and I'm going to click Generate. So now you see in real time that the storyboard is being generated for every single scene. We use ChatGPT and a bunch of other natural language processing techniques to issue prompts to these text-to-image models. Almost there. Okay, there we go. So now we have the 4 scenes that I selected, describing the main characters. And you can also see what prompts we issued. So for instance, for this big scene to the right, which is the takeoff scene, we decided to ask for a close-up of Zoe dressed as an astronaut, looking straight at the camera. She's in the cockpit. The space is crammed. So we tried to include all of those character descriptions that the filmmaker added and all of those location descriptions, combine them with the text of the script, and come up with a prompt that is easy enough to understand for the text-to-image models. Now, I only illustrated 4 scenes because this is real time and I didn't want it to take too much of your time, but we can definitely do this for the entire film. So the storyboard that you're seeing here has 187 scenes, and as you can see, every single scene is illustrated. Of course, the filmmaker has the ability to go ahead and edit the scene. There's a bunch of edits that they can do, or they can go ahead and completely ask for a completely new shot. So maybe they're not happy with what ChatGPT decided to ask for, and they will just add their own shot. Now, you know, it works surprisingly well, but just wanted to point out that this is not perfect. As everybody knows, AI makes mistakes. For instance, there's a scene in which they're wearing what's called EMUs. These are extravehicular mobility units. And yeah, this is an EMU in a spaceship. So these things happen. We can also change the style completely. So imagine you've generated 200 scenes and you've worked hard on getting the prompts just right. Now, with just one click of a button, you can have all of those prompts illustrated in a completely different style. So if I go with Spirited Away, I change the style, and now it's gonna basically regenerate everything in that particular style. If we don't want to wait, I have these already cached. This is in the style of WALL-E. This is in the style of Spirited Away. So the goal is to enable very quick experimentation and to allow people to express things visually, even when they don't have that skill. Because what we notice with filmmakers is that they usually excel in one direction, be it writing, being drawing. So we're trying to complement the skill that they don't have or they're not peaking on. Okay, so what's next for us? We started with the film industry just because filmmakers are incredible design partners and we learn so much about the creation process and all of the nuances of it. But the next natural step for us is to expand more into the marketing world, where obviously there's more volume, more marketing assets are being produced than films, which there's only 1,000 of them every single year. And in order to do that, we would love to collaborate with this audience in two potential ways. One of them is we're looking for design partnerships. That means we would love to work side by side with a marketing agency to understand in which way this product could evolve into something that they might find useful. For instance, I imagine the ideal input is not a PDF from Final Draft. And I imagine the perfect output is not necessarily a storyboard, but it might be an animatic or a video and so on. So we would love to collaborate with a marketing agency to understand exactly what they want. They would help us build the product, but we would also build the product in a way that greatly benefits their business. And the second way we would love to interact with this audience is we offer AI consultancy. Both me and my co-founder are technical people. We come from Google and Amazon. We've built foundational models. So if you are in need of technical guidance, we're also very happy to talk to you. If you're interested, you can email me at julia@story.ai, or I'll also be in person tomorrow in Chelsea to meet people in person.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. I mean, it's wild seeing this come to life. And Mark astutely put wow in the comments, and seeing some other heads nodding. And also, I mean, I do love, like one of the reasons I was excited to have you here is taking tech that isn't yet built for marketers, but I think most of us can immediately see, like especially any of us, some of us like me who like I'm not a creative, but I often need a lot of visuals and would love to have more visual representations of what I'm doing, than like, giving people that superpower. There was a question I'll just share from Thomas, and then I'll keep it a little quick just to make sure that a couple other presenters are there, but he was asking how to ensure that characters stay the same across the entire storyboard.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest challenges that we're facing, and it's still not perfect, to be completely open. The fact that we do ask explicitly for traits like race or age or gender, and then we infuse these prompts into the text to image prompts, we infuse these aspects into the prompt helps. You're still not going to get exactly consistent characters. You might still get a blonde white male, but not exactly the same person. The way to work around that is to come with your own characters, and then we can fine-tune models for your particular characters. Of course, this is a bit of a more elaborate process because now you need to take the characters from somewhere.
This is great, and I'm also glad I was on mute before, because I was laughing out loud with the emu example. It's just
made me think of Liberty Mutual. I feel like you have a partnership right there.
It's like you also appreciate when a presenter has the perfect visual aid, and I was like yeah, you can run with that anecdote for a very long time. So thank you. Yeah, I know the one challenge of doing a kind of like round robin thing is that all these feel too short for me, but at least give all of you a taste of what's possible with some of this tech, and then they could be conversation starters. And look, like I hope we'll continue some of these conversations tomorrow too. Sandra, I'll put the link in the chat in just a sec. So Noah, you're with Popsicle, right? Pop. And Sam, so I'll bring you up since I'm already seeing there. No, do you need presenter access to, or just Sam? Or
Sam can do the presenting. I'll speak over it. But
all right, well, Sam, feel free to share. And
cool. Well, thanks, David. Appreciate it. And hello, everybody. We're excited to introduce Popsicle to you. I'm Sam Katz, and I work on Popsicle's partnerships team. And I'm excited to introduce Noah King, the founder of Popsicle, who's going to take you through a brief deck on this fine Wednesday.
Hi, everybody. I'll just jump right in and hopefully save lots of time if there's any questions. But yeah, we're Popsicle. We're really focused on working with e-commerce brands and sort of reinventing online shopping in the world of AI. I wanted to start with our vision for where things are going. Obviously, everyone on this call is spending a lot of time, probably for the whole last year, thinking about AI, using AI tools. I really feel strongly that we need to be braced for a massive disruptive change. The way that we shop will change forever. And the question is not, will this happen? The question is, how soon does this happen? So the same way that we've all become accustomed to having AI assistants, whether it's GPT-4, Midjourney, et cetera, these AI assistants will start shopping for us. They'll be buying our clothes, they'll be buying our food, planning our travel. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And there's massive, massive implications. The biggest implication is this: the entire marketing world ecosystem, trillion-dollar market that's been around for more than 100 years, is all about persuasive storytelling to an audience of humans, right? We're trying to drive the emotional decisions of humans and get them to buy, or get them to feel affinity, or get them to be loyal. When you have an AI assistant, it doesn't matter how persuasive your storytelling is. It doesn't matter your emotional hook. Machines eat data. So structured data will be what drives the decisions. And this is a massive, massive paradigm shift. So brands that figure this out, the early adopters, the pioneers who figure this out, and they figure out specifically how to get these AI systems to give them preference, they will have massive, massive exponential growth above all others. I think this is similar to the golden age we saw when, Facebook, Instagram, and Google, that's the current paradigm. They had massive, massive growth and success because of the machine learning and AI systems that they had built in their newsfeed. I think we're going to see that again. And I think that most brands are just simply not prepared for this reality at all. So Popsicle, we are thinking about this. We are thinking about the old paradigm as well. We kind of have a today business and we have where we're heading. But in general, the common thread is that we turn data into AI superfuel. So what are we doing today? So today we work with hundreds of e-commerce brands, mostly on Shopify, direct-to-consumer brands. We have about $250 million of ad spend flowing through our systems each month. And essentially our vision is to make AI products entirely accessible. So we want them to be powerful, but also simple, affordable, easy to use. The product that we've been live with this last year turns Shopify sales data into machine learning rocket fuel for Meta. So we're processing and structuring data, feeding it to Meta, and it dramatically unlocks better ad performance. And any brand, independent of their level of knowledge of AI or expertise, just does a one-click install and instantly gets this access. Next slide. So what happens when you kind of have Meta working really hard for you? You can run the same ads, you can kind of do the same thing, and all of a sudden your cost per purchase goes down, your ROAS goes up, your revenue goes up, because you have one of the world's most advanced media machine learning models being fed real-time data and working on your behalf. So again, our focus is on SMB growth brands. We're heavily invested in Shopify. We really focus on subscription products with high value customers. I think AI can kind of unlock oversized results for brands like that. And again, sort of bridging from where we are today to where we are tomorrow, we really anticipate, everyone's familiar with SEO, search engine optimization. We think that this paradigm shift will be driven by machine engine optimization. So today we support the current paradigm, the sort of Google, Facebook, maybe Amazon paradigm. It's all about how we can enhance data for high performing ads. In the future, it'll be enhancing data for machine engine optimization. Right now, we're giving brands confidence as the world is changing with data and privacy policies. Tomorrow, it'll be giving them confidence as this disruptive evolution is unfolding. And essentially, it's just a shift from, we want to build tools that are an instant unlock for anybody. Instead of it being just AI-powered ad performance, it'll continue to be AI-powered e-commerce growth in the face of these changes. Awesome. So yeah, thank you for the chance to share our thinking, and hopefully there's some discussion to be had.
It's great. Thanks for this, Noah. I mean, one thing I'm most curious about that might cross the mind of a few others here who aren't working on e-com brands, like specifically in that sweet spot, but would also like just love access to things like this. And you know, do you plan on like just kind of like perfecting this in e-com and then expanding beyond that, or do you really like want to stay in that lane and just like where do you see your product heading?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of this is just our business strategy. So, I mean, I'm really bullish on all things AI, and I think that many of the smartest people in the world are, you know, it's somewhat of an arms race to just figure out who can build the best thing the fastest and create the most value and extract that value. So I think that where we have seen opportunity in the past and where I expect to see opportunity in the future is, again, that balance of how do you build something that's professional grade, really powerful, but really affordable and really accessible.
Yeah.
And I've seen a white space where, you know, SMB brands tend to be resource constrained, tend to be experts in one domain, but forced to be knowledgeable in many domains. So I think that's a pocket of the industry that tends to move slower, and it's a space we've been very, very successful in the past. So that's our personal focus. Do I think this will disrupt everything? Yes, I do. I think this has the potential for, you know, Facebook to go to zero, or sorry, Meta to go to zero, Shopify to go to zero. If people just sort of wait on the sidelines, like, they will be left behind while Amazon eats their lunch. So anyway, yeah, we're trying to just think about that and be a part of what's next.
Love it. And any other questions for Noah?
I have a question. How you doing, Noah? Great presentation. I was curious to know if you are looping in, or if you're seeing any value from first party data that, assuming that there's some conversant AI happening, or any of the queries. Do you loop the queries back in and mine that for additional insights and content and data? Part one. Part two is, how do you approach costing this with your clients, particularly for the compute power that varies depending on your customer?
Yeah, so just to be clear, really our business is a data processing business. And again, we're taking first party data where I see all of the value. We're helping brands unlock the value of the first party data they already have. And it's not that we are building these high compute power AI systems, it's that we are creating the fuel that goes into those systems. So we're leveraging our knowledge of how those systems work to help businesses
sort of courtesy, because I've been vaguely
extract the value from those systems.
I thought it was
so like, for example, I don't have to rewrite Meta's machine learning code. I just have to know how it works so that I can help an e-commerce business put the right data into that system. And the right data is their existing first party data just being structured, packaged, and sent correctly.
Right, but aren't there new sources or new streams of first party data created once you deploy AI?
I hear what you're saying, but I don't know if I necessarily follow.
Well, what maybe how you're doing the data analysis, I guess, is unclear to me. But in a conversant AI, the queries themselves, I view them as first party data. All right, so as these streams, as all these queries come in, that data itself, is that also being looped into your main data set to derive insights and action?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for a lot of AI systems, I really like the sandwich metaphor before. So I think a lot of people who are building today, and this is the way we're thinking as well, is you have the large language model as one foundational layer, and then you have an augmented layer where you're adding your first party data. And I think your point is that, you know, you can also use like the thumbs up and thumbs down and some sort of real-time input where tied to the specific query, you're getting some sort of validation or disvalidation. I think that's a fairly common practice to just continue to train and prune the data. I think specifically what I was talking about in this presentation is that if you were to make a query, if you were to ask GPT today to say, I'm going to Europe in the spring, help me plan an itinerary, at some point it'll get closer to a decision. And at some point it might be picking an airline, it might be picking a hotel, it might be picking a restaurant. And its ability to make those selections is limited by how those businesses have structured their data so that it can be queried. So recency is obviously a huge issue with LLMs that were trained in November of 2021. Solving that's one issue. But it's also like, what is it decisioning off of? So the way that a machine might decide that this is the perfect fit for you, but the wrong fit for someone else, there's a really complex data taxonomy that could be used to help navigate those decisions based on very subjective factors. So I see that as the bigger opportunity versus analysis of the query. I think the conversational part is really getting to the heart of what are your specific needs and how can those needs best be met? And how can all of the data that's being interpreted map to those sort of psychographics or, emotional biases or whatever it might be.
Great. Well, thanks, Noah. And Paul, appreciate the depth of questions there. So great to have so many subject matter experts in the room, different ways. I want to make sure we have time for Kat as well at RCX and pioneering a model that I found fascinating and started going through. And so Kat, why don't you take it away and share what you're up to, and any other questions that come up for the presenters, feel free to put them in the chat or just DM them. So.
Hey everyone. So RCX, or Radical Customer Experience, is my company. Before I show you a new web app that we just launched, just a little bit about me and how the company came about. So I am a feels like lifelong marketing executive. And I've built out marketing for brands of all shapes, sizes, and industries over the years. And a huge part of my story is that a few years ago, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD. I know for a minute, you're like, what does this have to do with AI? But bear with me. And during that time, I made an observation, because I can't turn off my analytical marketing brain, which is that I was perceiving marketing messages very differently. And that was my insight. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it yet. But it was enough to create my company and, kind of work on things in the background. During the pandemic, two things happened. One, I accidentally got a full-time job. And the second is I went back and I got a certification in being a trauma-informed professional. Again, bear with me. So I'm bringing all of these things together. So my perspective from my own experiences with trauma, also understanding what's happening in the body and literally in our DNA. And just really my perspective about how customer experience needs to consider individual human experience. So I teach brands how to do trauma-informed marketing and strengths-based marketing. And so we've heard a little today about how some of our old techniques are no longer going to work. Mine is no different. We've all been taught fear-based techniques and creating urgency with limited time and limited quantity. And it's our argument, and the data is proving it, which is always really exciting, that sending out these messages constantly is actually pretty dangerous for mental health. And we are in the middle of a mental health crisis, particularly after the pandemic. So a huge part of our mission at RCX is to teach companies how to market differently and utilize empathy. So now, where does AI come into play? One second, let me share my screen. So we have just rolled out a web app, and it's called Radical Human Intelligence because we combine both AI and HI, Radical High. A little joke to myself, perhaps. And we're doing two things. So there is a consumer insights first party data that's very brand specific that's created. But it's based around 3 principles, which have now come from my head into the data. And again, it's proving out, very exciting. But our 3 main principles are radical empathy, radical vulnerability, and radical authentic investment. And it is our belief that these 3 elements certainly tie into other social good and other things that companies are having to do for the past decade, at least, whether it's sustainability or diversity and inclusion. It's really about taking a pause and really thinking about our customers so we avoid, honestly, we avoid being canceled. And we all see those examples every day. And when they come across a news feed, I'm sure we're all like praying to whoever we may pray to and saying, thank God it wasn't my brand, right? And so the app is called the Cancel Culture Checkup. And what it produces is a brand sensitivity score. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Net Promoter, which, while it is certainly an indicator as to how a brand is doing, at the end of the day, it is really only telling a brand how they're doing on average with their consumers at any given moment in time. So my argument is that it gives you no real information at all.
Did it freeze for others?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Kat, in case you can hear us, we can't hear or see you. All right, well, we'll stay tuned to let's see, I'll get better at teeing up these URLs too, but here we go.
We need AI for redirecting traffic during presentations, you know. That would be so helpful.
Well, might need to let Kat finish another time. Any other questions for Noah or Julia or Joe as we wait to see if Kat can get back in?
I had a question for Joe Galarneau. I hope I'm not butchering that.
You actually got it like correct. No one ever does that. So congratulations.
Thanks. It's just in regard, and I'm sorry if I missed this because I joined a little bit late, but I was curious about your system and if there was a need, and if so, how you went about creating the kind of system prompt is what I've quite often heard it referred to. So it's I don't know, maybe it's like the dressing of your sandwich, where it kind of like you really guide it. If it has a personality, you give it the attributes that you want it to reflect, and any other guardrails. Have you done that, and how was that process in creating that?
Yeah, no, certainly. So we have a series of prompts that we use, and so one of it's like giving Sage a persona as a marketing assistant. You're talking to a marketer or someone interested in consumer insights. You want to not be technical about things. You want to do various things, and so we what's called decorate the user input with these prompts, and then obviously it has to at some point generate stuff that are queries into our API system. So there's a separate prompt to make that happen. So behind the scenes, a user may enter a sentence in, and there's probably 8 or 10 prompts that sequentially take that information, put it into GPT, get something out, back and forth until we get the data back. So certainly, that's a huge thing. And it's, we've actually stood up internal test agents that we can give out to non-technical people in the company to play with prompt engineering. So if they want to build a better marketing assistant, it doesn't require an ML engineer or a data scientist to do that. A marketer or a biz dev person or someone else can play with the same way.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, well, any other questions? We wrap up here. Well, for those in New York, you'll get to meet a lot of these founders and execs in person. So yeah, I'm excited to dive a bit more in. These are just more casual conversational events where they'll have their laptops, be able to demo some of what they're doing, and you can see some of the stuff and get to go and talk a little bit more at your leisure. But it's great that we got a quieter space where, beyond a little bit of a tech hurdle, we got to see some of the presentations as well. So yeah, otherwise just keep me posted, keep Leo posted, any other topics you want to cover, things like that, things you want to dive into, and we'll just keep the conversations going in Slack as well. But thanks for spending part of your Wednesday with us, and great to see everyone. And we'll be back next week with Gary Keibel from Davis and Gilbert, talking about the legal issues of political ads when it comes to AI. And so be probably some pretty heavy conversation on that front too. I saw their white paper. I was like, please come talk about this. I want to know more. So we'll keep having some fun ones here, and look forward to seeing some of you tomorrow.